Hello everybody, today I'll share with you what is trauma and how it happens and how it stays with us our entire lives. So we're conditioned from movies or from other people in general a traumatic experience, a trauma is something incredibly awful, like we see in movies that death or war or things of that sort cause trauma, but it's not the thing, it's the experience of it. It actually causes what is called a trauma. And the same thing, two different people can experience it in two different ways. And for one person it could be traumatic, for the other person it may be not. And so, how trauma happens for most of us is during our childhood, and that is because we have a limited perception of the world. That is very key. The kid, he doesn't know that much. For us kids, when we were kids, the child, the classroom was the entire world. Our parents were the most important authority because if we weren't accepted in the classroom or our parents didn't love us kids would probably think that we would die, which would be fair. And so we have this limited perception of the world, which makes some experiences more extreme. And so when we experience something, it from the after some time we may think that it was not that big of a deal, but in the moment, especially from our limited perspective as kids, even something like being in a restaurant and your parents telling you to be quiet, even though they are doing it because you're being too loud, disturbing other people, it may not be that big of a deal, but for you, the kid, it could be incredibly scary and awful because, oh, if I'm loud and maybe expressing myself, my parents told me not to do that. So maybe if I express themselves, if I express myself, they won't love me. So that may be the type of thought process that could go on in children, in kids. And we can't protect ourselves from that. Everyone is susceptible to that kind of things. And so when we experience these extreme emotions in the moment because of our limited perspective of the situation, we tend to disconnect from the experience as a way to survive it because it would be too overwhelming in the moment. So the fact that we are disconnecting from it is great in the moment. However, there is a key issue with that is that after the experience finishes, after everything is calmed down, everything is back to normal, that disconnection and all that energy that we don't process is remains there. Everything remains there after the traumatic experience if we don't process it. And that's why for some people trauma could last their entire lives because they experience something in a traumatic manner. They disconnect from the experience to survive it in the moment, but then again, I mean, we were never taught how to do this. We don't take the time to process what happened during that event, to let go of it, and to free ourselves from that negative experience. Life for most people is just this collection of trauma after trauma and running away from it, designing our lives so that we don't get triggered and those things never come up to the surface. And that's how most people live their life. And so by disowning these experiences, we actually disown a part of ourselves, like in the kid screaming example. That kid, not only would he be disowning the feelings, so there is suppressed emotions, but also the part of him that caused the event, in this case, screaming, being loud, maybe he considers that being expressive. So in order to survive in the moment, he would disown those things, and he would then probably have problems in adulthood and later on in life to be expressive or to be loud because he has he has been resisting that ever since that moment. And that's how the ego forms. most people think that the ego is people just being egoistic and thinking they are the best. It's actually the opposite. From these kinds of events, people disown part of themselves. So there is now the unacceptable part, and then there is the acceptable part, and the ego is just what is pushing the acceptable part to the front. It's not people who have like high egos in the standard. They aren't overly confident of themselves. They're incredibly insecure, and they're trying to push what they find acceptable so that to the forefront, so that they would feel accepted by others. But most importantly, they want to be accepted by themselves, and that doesn't happen by showing off how great you are. It's by accepting that you are actually just a human. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.